Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. Before we go any further, let me ask you something honestly. And as you listen, notice your first reaction, not the polite one. Have you ever felt that your English is not bad, yet every time you speak, something inside you holds you back? If yes, stay with me till the end of this part, because what you're about to hear might finally explain years of confusion. If this feels relatable, tap the like button not for the algorithm, but because it tells your own mind, yes, this is my problem. Also, subscribe if you want content that fixes the real block behind English confidence, not just grammar rules. The mental switch you were never taught. Now listen carefully. You don't lack English. You lack one mental switch. And this is important, because most people watching this already know English far better than they give themselves credit for. You understand videos. You follow conversations. You think in English more often than you realize. You even know what you want to say. But the moment it's time to speak, your chest tightens, your words slow down, your confidence drops, and suddenly you feel like all your English has disappeared. So naturally, you assume the problem must be, I need more vocabulary. I need to fix my grammar. I need to practice more. But here's the truth that's uncomfortable at first, yet freeing once you see it. Your English problem is not linguistic. It is psychological. If your English were truly weak, you wouldn't understand this video so easily. If your vocabulary were the issue, your mind wouldn't form clear sentences internally. If grammar were the real problem, fear wouldn't appear only when people are listening. So what's actually happening? You are speaking English with the wrong internal setting. Most learners carry an invisible rule in their mind. I must sound correct before I speak. And this single rule silently kills fluency. Because the moment your brain focuses on correctness, it stops focusing on communication. You start checking yourself, monitoring every sentence, rehearsing before speaking. And by the time you feel ready, the moment is already gone. This is why you feel fluent alone but blocked with people. Sound confident in your head but hesitant out loud. Know the words but can't access them fast enough. And slowly, something more damaging happens. You start blaming yourself. You think, maybe I'm not made for English. Maybe I started too late. Maybe others are just naturally better. But none of this is true. No one ever taught you how to switch from learning English to using English. You were trained to treat English like an exam subject, where mistakes mean failure, judgment, embarrassment. But fluent speakers don't operate from that mode. They flip a mental switch, often without realizing it. A switch that tells the brain, speak first, adjust later. And until you flip that switch, more practice will only make you more aware of your mistakes, not more confident. The switch fluent speakers use without knowing it. Now that you understand why your English feels blocked, let's talk about the mental switch itself. Because once you see it clearly, you'll realize it's not mysterious, and it's definitely not talent-based. The switch is simple but powerful. It is the shift from performance mode to expression mode. Most English learners speak in performance mode. In performance mode, your brain is not trying to communicate, it is trying to survive judgment. It asks questions like, is this sentence correct? Will they notice my accent? What if I make a mistake? And when your brain is busy protecting you, it cannot be fluent. Fluent speakers, on the other hand, are not constantly checking their English. They are checking their message. They don't ask, did I say it perfectly? They ask, did you understand me? That's the switch. When the goal changes from sounding correct to being understood, fluency begins to unlock naturally. This is why native speakers hesitate, repeat themselves, and make mistakes, yet never lose confidence. Because their identity is not attached to correctness. But as a learner, you were trained differently. You were trained to believe that mistakes mean failure, that hesitation means weakness, that accent means inferiority. So, every time you speak, your brain turns English into a test. And tests create pressure. Pressure creates tension. Tension blocks access to words you already know. This is why trying harder doesn't help. You don't become fluent by pushing more. You become fluent by loosening the mental grip. Here's something most people never realize. Fluency is not about speed. It's about permission. The moment you give yourself permission to speak imperfectly, your brain stops panicking. And when panic disappears, words start flowing. This is also why you sometimes speak better when you're tired, you're emotional, you're not thinking too much, because the mental guard drops. Your English didn't improve in those moments. Your mental switch flipped temporarily. Now imagine if that switch stayed on. Imagine speaking without mentally watching yourself, without translating every sentence, without trying to sound advanced. That's not confidence. That's alignment. And this is where most learners misunderstand confidence. They think confident people feel confident first and speak after. But in reality, fluent speakers speak before confidence appears. Confidence is not the cause, it is the effect. This is why waiting to feel ready keeps you stuck. You don't wait for the switch to flip automatically. You flip it through action. But here's the important part. Not forceful action. Not aggressive speaking. Not pushing yourself into panic. You flip it through safe expression. How to train the switch without forcing confidence. Now here's where most advice goes wrong. People tell you, just speak more. Don't be shy. Practice with everyone. But if speaking already feels unsafe in your mind, forcing yourself only strengthens the fear. So instead of asking, how do I speak more English? You need to ask, how do I make speaking feel safe again? Because your brain is not blocking English. It is blocking threat. This is why the mental switch doesn't change through pressure. It changes through controlled exposure. You train your brain in environments where mistakes don't equal embarrassment. Start by changing who you speak for. When you speak to impress, your switch stays off. When you speak to express, it slowly turns on. That means you don't aim to sound smart. You aim to be clear. You don't aim to finish sentences perfectly. You aim to finish them honestly. And here's something subtle but powerful. Stop correcting yourself mid-sentence. Every time you interrupt your own speech to fix grammar, you're telling your brain, speaking is dangerous. Instead, let the sentence finish. Even if it's imperfect. Especially if it's imperfect. Because fluency is built in completion, not perfection. Another shift that matters more than people realize is pace. When you rush, your brain panics. When you slow down, your brain relaxes. Speaking slowly is not a weakness. It is a sign of control. Fluent speakers pause. They breathe. They think while speaking, not before speaking. And the moment you allow yourself to pause, your English stops collapsing under pressure. Now listen to this carefully. Your accent is not the problem. Your hesitation is not the problem. Your mistakes are not the problem. Your relationship with mistakes is the problem. Once you stop treating errors as proof of failure, they lose their emotional power. And when mistakes stop feeling dangerous, your brain stops shutting down. This is why practicing alone helps, but not completely. And why speaking with people helps, but only when done correctly. You're not trying to become fearless. You're trying to become comfortable being imperfect. Because that is what fluent speakers already are. Locking the switch and speaking without fear. By now, you can probably see it clearly. Your English was never the real issue. It was the setting you were speaking from. And the reason this mental switch feels so powerful is because once it flips, it doesn't just change your English. It changes how you see yourself while speaking. So how do you lock this switch? You stop measuring your English by how you sound, and start measuring it by whether the message moves forward. Did the other person understand you? Did the conversation continue? Did meaning flow, even if the sentence wasn't perfect? If yes, then your English worked. That's the new standard. The moment you adopt this standard, pressure starts dissolving. Because now, you're no longer trying to perform English. You're using it. And here's something most learners never notice. Fluent speakers are not calm because their English is perfect. Their English sounds confident because they are calm about imperfection. They don't replay sentences after speaking. They don't punish themselves for mistakes. They move forward. You must train that same habit. After every conversation, don't ask, "Where did I mess up?" Ask instead, "Did I communicate?" This single question keeps the switch on. And when you feel nervous, which you will sometimes, don't fight it. Nervousness is not a sign that you're bad at English. It's a sign that you care. Speak anyway, because every time you speak through nervousness, you teach your brain that English is survivable. And what your brain learns, it stops fearing. Over time, something incredible happens. You stop translating. You stop rehearsing. You stop watching yourself speak. You become present. And presence is what people mistake for confidence. Now, if this video changed the way you see your English even a little, do not let this be another moment of understanding without action. Like this video, so this message reaches others who are silently struggling like you once did. Subscribe to the channel because we don't teach English here, we remove the fear around it. And comment one sentence in English, imperfect, simple, real. Not to prove anything, but to flip the switch right now. Remember this, you were never behind. You were just trained to speak with the wrong mindset. And once that changes, your English starts working with you, not against you. Thank you for watching, and we'll continue this journey together.